Okay guys, welcome to Skrrt.garage. My name is Connor and today, yes, I'm gonna make a video that is how to drive a sports car for free. I'm very excited to make this video because truthfully guys, it's been a long time coming. I get asked this all the time behind the run-of-the-mill questions of when should I expect X, Y, or Z when people are reaching out about cars. The second most common question I get on Instagram or on my email associated to this YouTube channel is this car a good purchase? What do you recommend? And it's just general consulting for these cars. And so with that frequency, I've decided that I'm gonna make a video talking about 5 things that could truthfully help you guys save thousands of dollars when you go to buy a car. So with that, let's go ahead and get this video started. Okay, first off, why do I feel qualified to make this video? Well, in the past 5 years, I've owned about 10 cars, ranging from, the cheapest one I bought was a Miata for like 10 grand, all the way up to like 85 grand. So in that massive, variance of price range, in the past 10 cars I've owned, they have all left me in the green. I haven't lost any money on any of the cars I've owned, and I'm not a dealer. I don't, flip these cars. I actually own them. I drive them for a considerable amount of miles, at least a year, and I tag and title them in my own name, and I'm still able to do this. And it's very easy to do if you follow a few steps. And today I'm gonna give you guys those steps that I generally do, or as much as I can in 10 to 15 minutes here. So the first thing, I'm just gonna jump straight into it, is I need you guys to become the expert, or at least a true enthusiast of the car you want. And generally speaking, what that entails is that you must, funnel down your shopping list of cars to 1 to 3 cars. It works best if you funnel it down to just one, but funnel it down to the one car you want and become the expert on that car. Go to Facebook groups, go to the forums, look up, a very common thread that you'll always find in any forum that you go to on any car is known issues. You can read down that, kind of chug your way through it, figure out what is going to happen, and most importantly, when it is going to happen. This is something that is a huge red flag that I see all the time that people just forget. They think that a car is going to act perfectly because it's a machine, but 9 times out of 10 that won't happen. Let's take any number of cars for example. First, this car behind me, the Lexus ISF. At 150,000 miles, the differential is going to blow. It just will. It's been documented many times, many ways. And so if you're going to buy this car at 150,000 miles and it's never been replaced, well then I would factor that into your budget before you buy it, because there's a good chance that's going to happen to you. Same goes for the radiator on this car. Between 90 and 120,000 miles, if you look at the forums, that's when people are experiencing the original radiators to fail. And it's not just this car. You can talk about the 996 Porsche and the IMS bearing. You can talk about the F80 M3 and the intercooler that sits on top of the car. You can talk about the Giulia Quadrifoglio. This is a great example. Those cars are about 50, 60 grand, whatever they may be right now. And at 30,000 miles, they have a very expensive dealer service. It's like 2 to 4 grand depending on where you get it done. And if you use your full budget on a car and that car has 29,000 miles, then within 1,000 miles, you're gonna be hit with another 2 to 4 grand bill. And if you don't anticipate that, then that could be pretty catastrophic to your overall budget for a car. So that is bullet point number 1, become the expert. Okay, this might even be the most important bullet point that we talk about all day today, and that's bullet point number 2. You make your money when you buy the car. Now this is so important. You might be thinking, what do you mean you make your money when you buy the car? You make your money when you sell the car, right? Wrong. Okay, what I mean to say here is your buying of the car at the position you buy it ultimately determines what you're gonna be like when you sell it. For example, let's use this car because it's behind me. The average asking price for this is about 30 grand. So if I buy it today for 35 and I wanna sell it in a year, I'm already gonna be on the back foot at 5 grand. However, if I were to buy it for 25,000 and the average asking price is 30, then when I go to sell it next year, I'm already gonna be ahead 5,000. So how do you figure out that range that you should be buying these cars at? Well, that's the real question. What you need to do is to understand the car that you want like day traders understand the stock market. You have to watch it, like actually watch it. And what I do, anytime I buy a car, I watch it for at least 3 to 6 months. And I will go on Autotrader.cars.com. I'll figure out what the dealers are selling their cars for. Then I will go to Private Party on Craigslist and Facebook. And then I'll even look at auction websites. And when you combine all of that, you have a really good baseline of what a car should be sold for under any circumstance of mileage, accidents, whatever the case may be. And you can have a ton of confidence knowing when you get a good deal. And this is also really important because the good deals go really fast. So if you find a car that's 2 to 4 grand under what its true market value is, if you know what the market value is, then you can be right there ready to buy it, and you're gonna be, obviously way ahead than you could be if you just bought whatever car looked pretty to your eyes. So that's number 2. And then this is kind of very important, and it actually piggybacks right on top of number 2. It's bullet point number 3. It's be willing to travel. I cannot stress this enough. A lot of people will buy a car local to them because truthfully guys, yeah, it's really convenient, but the likelihood that a great deal with the perfect spec, mileage and everything is sitting 20 minutes away at your local dealership is just not gonna happen. That almost never, ever, ever happens. And when I buy a car, almost always I have to fly out somewhere or have the car get shipped to me. But I'm okay to incur that cost of flying out somewhere, checking it out, because 9 times out of 10, when you're doing your research and you're doing it, nationwide, you'll find a car that's under market value, maybe 3 to 4 to 5 grand. And if you buy it, there's a really good chance that it's not going to be local to you. But to me, paying $500 to get on an airplane and then pick up the car 8 hours away, drive it back to me it's worth it to spend $500 on a plane ticket and to save $4,000 on a car purchase. So that's another thing I would tell you guys. If you're like me, you can even make it a weekend trip. Sometimes my wife will come with me and we can see whatever city that the car is in. Okay, so those are the first 3. The first one, like we talked about, is to be an expert. Even when you're looking at the car, you can know what to check for so you don't get hung out to dry. The second thing was to make your money on the front end. The third thing was be willing to travel. Okay, 4. This is gonna sound kind of backwards because I do this all the time, but be careful with the modifications you are doing to your car. What I have seen when I'm buying cars is that people end up making about 30 cents on the dollar, or 30% of what they invest into a car. So if you invest $10,000 into a car, you might end up making $3,000 of that back when you sell it. And here's why. This is a little bit long-winded, but I'll tell you. When you sell a car and you take it to a dealership, what's gonna happen is they're gonna ask you for the VIN number, the mileage, and if it has any accidents or whatever. The person who took that from you, your salesperson, is going to give that to a used car dealer. The used car dealer is gonna call his buddy at the auction, give him those same 3 details, and the auction guy is gonna say, okay, worst case scenario, if we can't sell that car that you're gonna take in on trade, we can throw it out to this auction, and auction will give us 25 grand. Okay, so then they call back your salesperson, and your salesperson tells you, we can sell it for 25, so we'll buy it from you for 23. And that's kind of how that whole thing goes. And when these cars do get sold at auction, the modifications are irrelevant. They're never included when a car goes to auction, at least when you're trading it in. And so that same philosophy gets pushed over to when a lot of what the private party people are doing. 9 times out of 10, the stuff you do to your car is pretty irrelevant. And for that reason, a lot of people end up taking their modifications off and selling them individually. It's called parting out a car. So just be careful. You know, there are some instances where modifications can help the value of your car. One that I will mention is wheels. In my case, when I sell cars, the cars that I put wheels on, I tend to get almost the full investment return when I sell the car. And I think that wheels are a little different because wheels, there's headache involved, you know, buying a set that matches everything, taking a day off work to get everything mounted and balanced, getting the right fitment so everything works really well, the turnaround time. I think people are willing to pay a little bit more for the wheels because it also sets the car apart. I know personally that when I sell cars that have better looking aftermarket wheels, they tend to sell faster than cars that are just completely stock. So wheels will help. Another thing that you must do, when I talk about modifications, I am not talking about maintenance. You must do the maintenance on the car. A nice car with the transmission service, diff service, oil changes, radiator, all that stuff, coolant changes. If you do those things, that goes a super long way when you sell a car. You always make your money back in maintenance if it's done correctly. So that's something I would absolutely mention there. Okay, number 5. This is super important too. You have your car, you've done all your maintenance, it looks real pretty. Now it's time to sell it. I highly recommend, guys, you take good pictures of the car. It seems like so obvious, but I've literally seen this before where there's a nice car that was being sold here locally to me in Oklahoma and it had terrible pictures of it. Pretty quick, somebody bought the car because it was a really good deal and it did have good history. And about 3 weeks later, I saw the same car listed on the same website here in Oklahoma. The only thing that had changed is that the car had been detailed and the car had better photos. And the new asking price was $5,000 more. And I'm almost positive they got that, or at least $3 to $4 grand more, because the photos were better and they had far more sex appeal when selling the car. So when you sell your car, even if you pay somebody a couple $100 to take quality photos of your car, if it's a really nice car, you'll make that money back. So something I will mention there. The last thing I will mention, guys, is if you are unwilling or unable to become the expert, search out all those common issues. If you're unwilling to maybe travel or look at the market and take the time and effort to figure out what a good buy is, there's no shame in having a car consultant or a consultant to help you do that. In the last few years, because of me helping my friends and my family and now YouTube, I've done quite a bit of consulting for probably some of you guys that are watching this. And if you can pay $50 to $100 to save $2,000 to $3,000 on a car purchase, to me that makes perfect sense. So if you don't have the time, I recommend that you do that. You can do it to anybody that you trust or that has real good experience with the car that you're looking at, or just the car market in general. The other thing I will also give you a little bit of advice on, and remember guys, I could talk all day. I love talking about this stuff. But one more thing I will tell you that I get asked a lot is, when buying a car, what should I go for? And I normally tell people to buy a mid-cycle refresh, which is like, when the cars have 7-year life cycles. So the 3rd or 4th year is usually when they revamp it up with some better taillights, some better headlights, a couple little things here or there. But that's important. But the most important that I tell people is to buy the top tier of the model range that you're getting. So for example, let's talk about my M2 that's in the driveway right now. Right now, you can buy an M2 for 50, 60 grand or whatever, or you could buy a brand new M240i. And a lot of people will want the brand new car, even though it's a lower trim level and they cost the same. And I am here to tell you guys that if you want to save money or not lose any money on your sports car, that you need to do the opposite. You need to buy the used car, or even if both are used, you need to buy the last generation or whatever the case may be, but buy the highest tier, because those always depreciate the least, or at least they don't depreciate as fast as the mid-level cars. If you go look right now, an Audi S5 versus an Audi RS5 from the same generation or even the past generation, it's amazing to see how quickly the mid-level cars will start to depreciate. So anyways guys, that's all I have for you today. I really hope that this helps you. If it did, please give it a thumbs up, also a positive comment down below, and feel free to add to it. Feel free to add any other tips that could help anybody that has come to this channel. With that guys, love you, have a great day, and we will see you on the next video.